Never let anybody see you sweat.
So I was born in New York City, and I lived there until I was 8 years old. I realized that I was a much better talker than I was a listener.
I don't know what to say, I just don't like what you're saying.
Sorry, Your Honor.
I ended up going to law school at Georgetown, and I was a prosecutor for Janet Reno. I loved it because it was so raw.
Were you cheating on her?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
All rise.
Our show will be a mixture of education, I think you're misreading the law a little bit, and entertainment. My main goal is justice and the law. That's been my legacy, and the legacy I hope to continue into the future with this show.
Sabrina Reynolds claims her girlfriend ruined their chances of getting pregnant. Paige Williams says she accidentally dropped their at-home insemination kit when they got into a heated argument.
Sabrina Reynolds, you are suing Paige Williams for $1,400. The amount that you are out for a sperm sample that you were unable to use. Please,
Yes, ma'am.
Let's take a few steps back and talk about what it was the two of you were doing. You were in a relationship together, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
2 years.
Okay. And you had decided to have a baby?
Yes, about 3 months into our relationship, we started working on having a baby.
Okay. That's pretty fast.
Typical lesbians, right?
No, no, there's no such a thing as what you just said. Start with there's so many things wrong with what just came out of your mouth, but 3 months is just fast to decide you're going to create a human with a person you've known
Yes.
3 months. You know,
Yes.
so what exactly? How are you going to do it?
Well, we started talking about having a baby, and we went to a fertility doctor to find out how to go about it. And they referred us to a company that does at-home insemination kits.
Who was going to actually carry the pregnancy?
I was.
All right. And had you folks discussed like what parental rights, if any, she would have in the endeavor?
Yeah, she would be, you know, the mom as well. So we would be the two moms.
So long as everything went well.
Correct.
And what if you broke up? Then what happens?
Then I would keep the baby.
Oh, yeah, and what? Like, you know, what happens with visitation? What happens with child support? What happens with all of that? That, you know, because they're not a toy. They're a human, so they have needs until they're, you know, the law actually gets really touchy about you not providing for those needs until they're 18. So what was the plan?
I was going to care for the child if we were to break up because financially I was more stable than...
We did not discuss that.
I don't think you did. I believe you. I don't think you did. I think that's what you would want to have happen, but I think what I find is that people often aren't planners in front of me. And I would think that that's something that would be discussed because you would not have a biological connection to the child.
Right.
And so, you know, there are certain legalities that are going to come to play here. And I would think that you would want to be involved in those legalities and which way they're going to fall. All right. In any event, everybody's thinking happy thoughts, and you research the topic, and then what happens? How does this work?
So while we were looking for a sperm donor, we started arguing a lot because we couldn't decide on one that we both liked. So about a year and a half into it, we finally found one after constantly arguing about this. And
okay, can you tell me what the arguments were about?
Yeah, so we would disagree a lot because I was looking for something more specific, like somebody with blonde hair and blue eyes, and she wanted something different than I did.
What did she want?
She wanted like darker hair and brown eyes.
Really?
So,
That's what we've been reduced to, engineering the actual eye color and...
All I wanted was just a good health history and someone who could
And
give
what
us
did
sperm.
well, if it got that specific, that's both of you pulling in two different silly directions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens? Tell me what happens that leads us to come to court today.
So we finally decided on a sperm donor, and we had the date planned out of when we're going to do the at-home insemination. I went to work that day, found out that I had been laid off. I had a horrible, horrible day, and I didn't want to tell Paige over text or over the phone because I figured this is something we had to talk about in person. So I get home, and she had set up our house with flowers and candles, making it very like intimate night. And I came home and I was not in the mood to be intimate with her after my day. So I came home and I went to talk to her about being laid off, and she just started talking about herself, which she typically does. It's always about her.
What did she say about herself?
So in this situation, it was like, look at all these things I did for you, so what, you've had a bad day. We had planned to be intimate tonight, and now you're gonna say no just because you've had a bad day. Like, she wasn't understanding at all. It was, again, all about her and what she did for me that day.
Can I ask you something about the sperm sample? It's like viable for how long?
It's so about 30 minutes after you take it out.
So it's a complete waste of money if the process doesn't happen.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, whether you're intimate or not, if the process of insemination does not happen, it is a complete waste of money.
Coming up on Justice for the People.
We were in the kitchen, she grabbed the vial and she looked at me and she goes, I don't think I want to do this with you anymore. You would be a horrible mother, and I'm done. And she threw it on the ground and smashed it right in front of me.
If you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to bring your case to court, call 1-888-552-6878. This is Justice for the People with Judge Millian. We're back with a case of Sabrina Reynolds, who blamed her ex-girlfriend Paige Williams for ruining their chance of getting pregnant.
And how much do you have to pay for that?
It's $2,800.
Oh, wow.
We
Yeah.
split it.
You split it.
We did, but so we were arguing about this, and she grabbed the vial. We were in the kitchen. She grabbed the vial and she looked at me and she goes, I don't think I want to do this with you anymore. You would be a horrible mother, and I'm done. And she had the vial in her hand, and I went to grab it because I didn't want her to drop it. She pulled back and she threw it on the ground and smashed it right in front of me.
She threw it on the ground, or it fell on the ground when you two were struggling?
She threw it on the ground.
She threw it on purpose on the ground?
Yes, like out of spite. She's a very spiteful person sometimes.
So not true.
Okay, let me hear your version of what happened. Sabrina comes home. Sabrina's been laid off.
Right. Well, I didn't know that she had been laid off, of course. And we had just not had very many special nights. We had been arguing so much about all these little things. I got laid off a few months prior, and she said that I wasn't looking for a job.
She wasn't.
I was, and the economy is horrible, and I have been trying to find jobs every single day. So we've been in all of these fights, right? So I was just trying to make a really nice night for her. Anyway, she gets home. She's in a horrible mood, which is understandable. I, again, hadn't known that she was laid off. But I had gotten everything ready, including, I took the vial out, and as we said, it takes 30 minutes for it to not be viable anymore. So I was trying to tell her about my day and how it was going, and then we would keep going with the night,
Right.
And then I took the vial because I said she was being horrible, and I took the vial. I felt like she, even before she was taking hormones, she was constantly triggering me. She knew everything about me, so she was using everything against me.
Why are you people trying to bring a baby together into the earth? You don't even have a decent relationship, and it sounds like it wasn't decent ever, like very early on.
It was at the beginning.
Say it again.
It was at the beginning.
For how long was it decent?
Until I lost my job.
And that was how many months before this blow up this night?
9 months.
I mean, for 9 months it hasn't been decent, and you're still trying to bring a human into the world?
I mean, she always...
That you have no idea what legal rights you have to?
Right, well, she always claims that she doesn't have a lot of time left, so that's why we decided that she would carry the first baby. And I've always known that I would be a good mother. And I've always been there for her emotionally. I've always supported her.
Tell me what happened with the vial.
I had it in my hand, and I told her that this wouldn't work, at least not with her being a very good mother. And then she scared me, as I said, even before she started taking hormones. She was yelling at me. I never really knew how she would be day to day. And then
it sounds like a miserable relationship.
Yeah, I mean, truly.
Yeah, so why are you trying to bring a child into it?
That's a great question. It just feels like I personally whether it was with her or not, had always wanted to be a mother.
Right, except for that's not what this is about, right? Because this plan was you paying for half and the insemination being for Sabrina, and Sabrina, in her head, says, we break up, she's got no rights, and you are, wait a minute, we never talked about, like, so really this isn't about your dreams and aspirations.
Right.
This is so categorically different, where I can understand that if you're committed to somebody and you think you have a great relationship with them and you're going to spend the rest of your life with them, but you don't even get along with this person, so it makes no sense to me.
I think I was just, for a long time you know, you get 80% bad and you get 20% good of a person, and you think that person can be changed or fixed. I know it sounds horrible, but
It does. How old are you?
I'm 30.
Right. By 30, we know that's not true. By 18, we know that's not true. That night, you have the vial in your hand that you've picked it up from where?
I picked it up from I had it laid out on the kitchen counter.
Okay. And then she walks in and she's had a terrible day and she doesn't want to do this, but you've already taken the sample. How does this work? Is it in a fridge? Like where?
It's in a container with dry ice.
Okay, and then, but everybody knew that this was supposed to be the night.
Correct.
There's no,
yeah, it was planned for
and
months.
then, so now it has to happen in the next half hour because you've taken it off the dry ice?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was precipitous. Perhaps leave it on the dry ice till she gets home. But anyway, so then this happens, and you pick it up off the counter, and you say what?
I say that
This isn't
she
gonna work.
wouldn't. She would not make a good mother.
Okay.
But she started to come towards me, and I got scared, and I dropped it. So.
Okay. Did she grab it from your hands?
She tried to.
Okay. So when you say you dropped it, how do you know it's you who dropped it?
She tried to, but she hadn't gotten to me yet. And then I accidentally dropped it because I was scared. It was a bad
Okay,
reflex.
tell me what she did that made you scared, that made you drop it.
She lunged at me.
Coming up,
According to you, had you made contact with the vial?
No,
Okay.
I tried to.
And you do admit that you lunged to go grab the vial?
Yes.
And then the accident happens.
this is Justice for the People with Judge Milian. We are back with a case of Sabrina Reynolds, who blamed her ex-girlfriend Paige Williams for ruining their chance of getting pregnant.
What I'd like you to do is take my bailiff, and my bailiff is you, and you are her, and do to my bailiff what she did to you, so that
Okay.
I can understand and have a picture in my head.
Okay. So
Okay. Go ahead and go back. According to you, had you made contact with the vial?
No.
Okay.
I tried to.
Yeah.
And you do admit that you lunged to go grab the vial?
Yes.
And then the accident happens. Who is your witness? You have a witness here. Tell me about it.
yeah, I do. This is Donald Travis.
Okay.
Was our neighbor before I moved out.
Okay, Mr. Travis, can you step forward?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you bring Mr. Travis to testify about?
Yeah, well, Paige, I've always known her to be an upstanding woman. Sabrina and I have lived next to each other. We share a wall for 3 years. They dated for 2 years. So at first, things seemed to be fine. And then I would hear just really aggressive, loud commotions. I became concerned for, Paige's safety.
Why?
Because I could hear through the walls.
And who were you hearing through the walls?
Her.
Okay, not Paige.
No.
Okay.
Sabrina
And what kinds
screaming
of
at
things were
Paige.
you hearing Sabrina say?
Curse words, just really nasty things.
Would you hear it get physical?
I thought it could, and I actually
Okay,
pulled.
but did you actually hear it get physical? Is that a no? Just answer.
No.
Okay, was it ever physical, Paige?
Not until the end.
Okay, not until the end, what?
I
Didn't
mean,
it
not
end with the
until that
vial?
night. Not until that night.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, on that night, when I say physical, I mean, did she hit you, did you hit her?
Coming up,
Each of you paid for half of that vial, and you drop it, but that's because you lunge. And it sounds to me like it's kind of both your faults that this happened.
this is Justice for the People with Judge Milian. We are back with a case of Sabrina Reynolds, who blames her ex-girlfriend Paige Williams for ruining their chance of getting pregnant.
Just in general, you were concerned about Paige because you would hear Sabrina doing the arguing.
Yes, I pulled Paige to the side at one point because I knew they were planning on having a child, and expressed that I was concerned for the environment in which the child would be raised in. I mean, Sabrina was always pleasant enough, but we just never really meshed. We just kind of kept our distance as neighbors. But Paige has always been very warm and welcoming and sweet, and we've never had any issues, and I shared that concern with her.
Are you surprised to see him here or no?
No.
Okay, why? Because they got chummy?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I appreciate your testimony. You can go ahead and sit down.
Thank you.
I'm looking at a situation where each of you paid for half of that vial, and you drop it, but that's because you lunge. And it sounds to me like it's kind of both your faults that this happened. And so each of you took the hit that you each took because each of you paid for half of that. Why is it that she would have to be 100% responsible for your share when you lunged at her?
Because it's not what happened. I did go for it, but she threw it on the ground. She didn't accidentally drop it.
Did you throw it on the ground?
No, I didn't.
Okay. I'm having a hard time thinking.
Why would I throw a vial that
because
we
you don't
both
want her to
paid for?
use it, because somehow you feel that you have some connection to the sperm in that vial, which I'm not getting anyway, because that's not what's going on here. You have a miserable relationship with someone you've known a very short time, and the writing's on the wall that you're not going to stay together. So I guess maybe Sabrina's theory is you did it on purpose to spite her.
Judge Million's verdict when justice for the people returns. This is Justice for the People with Judge Million.
Your Honor, I dropped it.
Yeah. I think it's infinitely more likely that she dropped it and not that you lunge for it and she goes, "Fuakata," and throws it down. I just don't see that as having happened. And no matter what, you would have the burden of proof in this case to prove to me that it is your version by a preponderance of the evidence, and I have your word against hers on how it happened, and her explanation seems infinitely more likely that it's an accident from you lunging, which you admit that you lunged, and that's kind of how it ended up happening. I do not think that, she wouldn't sit there and say, "Blah, blah, blah, you're a terrible person," and wait for you to lunge to throw it on the ground. She would have just thrown it on the ground if that's what she wanted to do, which is a really hostile thing for somebody to do. And really, all this is all academic, because if nobody's doing the insemination, whoop, it's over, right? The whole thing was going to go kaput anyway if there's no insemination, because you only have X amount of time. Am I missing something, or is that accurate?
No, you're absolutely correct.
Okay. All right. So I am not going to order. I do not find that you have sustained your burden of proof that Ms. Williams deliberately threw it on the ground. I am ruling in favor of the defendant in this case, and I wish you both good luck.
All rise.
Judge Million has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim is denied.
I don't think that's fair. I saw her throw it on the ground. I don't feel like justice was served.
I always wanted to be a mother, as I said, and I wouldn't have thrown anything on the ground.
This has been a production of Allen Media Group.